This course is focused mainly on utilizing the Phonegap APIs. So to get things moving, I'll be using the pre-built Ratchet UI. Also, it's worth noting another very popular UI called Chocolate Chip. But even though Ratchet is a little more work, I'll be using it for this course. Take a look at all the components and view the examples on their website. Also, you have a range of themes to choose from, including base, Android, and iOS. I've already set up the project, so please download the source files for this lecture, as I've already made adjustments so that iOS and Android look and work properly. Firstly, I'll extract this lecture's source files and then copy them into my Phonegap apps www directory. Now let's run this app on iOS and Android. First, cd to the apps directory, and then type Cordova run iOS and then Android. Both emulators will fire up consecutively, and we should now see our boilerplate app up and running on both the Android emulator and the iOS simulator. Now let's review the developer tools for Android and iOS. Firstly, we'll start with iOS. Open Safari, drop down the Apps menu, click Preferences, click the Advanced tab, and finally tick Show Develop menu in menu bar. Exit out of the Preferences and click on the Develop menu. Then go to the iOS Simulator menu item. Finally, target the file under the app you would like. In my case, I'll target the index.html file under Cartoon Smart. From the developer tools, we can view the console, inspect the DOM, and also edit and style the DOM in real time. Now let's review a similar process for Android. These instructions I'm about to give apply to all operating systems, providing you have the latest Google Chrome installed and have your Android emulator set up and working. Now open Google Chrome and type in the address bar chrome://inspect. From here, we can see the Android emulator and app ID. All I need to do now is click the Inspect link. Just like the Safari developer tools, we can view the console and also inspect, edit, and style the DOM in real time. And there we have it, a brilliant way for you to edit hybrid apps on iOS and Android without recompiling. Now let's have a closer look at the project and file structure. Firstly, we have the index.html file that loads when the app is ready. Then we have the CSS files for styling. The Ratchet CSS file also loads the correct font for the OS. After that, we have the Ratchet UI library that I slightly changed for styling reasons. Next, we have the Zepto.js library. This is just a lighter version of jQuery. So if you know jQuery, you know Zepto. Finally, I've added a blank JS file where we'll be writing some custom JavaScript. I'll be adding in a new JavaScript file for each API we cover. Now let's delve into the index.html file. Firstly, we disable phone number recognition on iOS, which stops long numbers automatically becoming a link. Instead, use the tell link type for setting up a phone call, or SMS link type for setting up a text message. Then there's the meta viewport, which is crucial if you want your app to be accepted onto the App Store. This tag stops the user from scaling the web view and forces a high-density pixel or retina device to give its correct resolution. Native or hybrid apps aren't supposed to be pinched and zoomed except where there is intended functionality and the UI must be fully responsive. Next, I'm linking to the CSS and JavaScript files, including Cordova, which will be injected into the project when the app is compiled. Finally, we have the body. When the link is clicked on the main page, it opens a model dialog. You don't need to apply any JavaScript when you do this, which is one of the niceties of Ratchet. For each API we cover, I'll be adding in another link and model dialog for that specific API. Here are some quick tips for creating your own UI. Firstly, disable all elements in any state from touch highlights and outlines in CSS. This is important as any outlines or tap highlights are ugly and shouldn't be applied to elements within our app. Next, use CSS Transitions when animating, not CSS keyframe animations. CSS Transitions are extremely nice as there's no snapping between states, and it's hardware accelerated for a smooth animation. Also, use native scrolling by setting overflow to auto, and for iOS and other WebKit-based environments, use the WebKit overflow scrolling CSS property with the value of touch. Please include overflow scrolling touch below overflow auto. Overflow auto will work on older Android browsers. However, iOS requires 2 fingers for inline scrolling and isn't acceptable with hybrid apps. To solve this, we have the WebKit overflow scrolling touch, which enables 1-finger inline scrolling on elements within iOS. It's worth noting this for inline scrolling elements within your websites as well, saving us much time and effort working with a JavaScript library. Don't forget, you can use the advanced CSS3 features like the Flexbox model for advanced layouts and much more. Next, I have some JavaScript tips. Firstly, make sure you're using touch events to trigger any application logic. Finally, when utilizing JavaScript, make sure you're using the prototype chain where necessary. When we create a function, it's interpreted to machine code via the JavaScript engine and stored in memory. The more functions your app has, the more memory it will take up. However, if we were to create a person object with one function 1,000 times, we then create 1,000 functions in memory. This will not only make our app take up more memory, but unnecessarily makes the JavaScript engine compile more functions, slowing our app down. To solve this, we use prototype, which simply put is a shared object. Now when I create 1,000 new person objects, the prototype or shared object will be attached to it. As the function is contained within the shared object, it is only compiled once instead of 1,000 times, and that makes it much more efficient. Now when calling this function on each object, it makes it easier for JavaScript to find this function in memory and execute it. This will make any JavaScript, whether for your hybrid apps or websites, much more responsive. Please note that if you do actually write this syntax here, it won't work. I just wrote it so that it would be nice and sort of clear to understand how the prototype works. However, that syntax won't work. The app that I'll be creating will use a light version of jQuery called Zepto. If you've previously used the jQuery library, then you already know Zepto. Think of it as jQuery on a diet. You can extend the prototype chain by simply creating your own plugin using the $.fn command. This is, however, just a very rudimentary introduction to prototype in JavaScript. It by no means goes into any depth here. There's so much more to cover, but even these techniques give you a major boost, and the rest relies on your creativity.